We are back, and the way this show started in 2006 was a draft recap show with the Audible, Cecil, Lammey, and Sigmund Bloom, and we are here, Bloom, once again. You said on our pre-show conversation, which is a little chatty at times, you said it's so good to be back here. It's like, yeah, this is where we began. This is how it all started. And it's good to go back over the draft class and just kind of share our thoughts of all of these rookies that are coming into the NFL in 2022.
And the directions of these teams. And as I said during the draft, it is football new year. I know there's a specific day right before free agency starts that's the football new year on the calendar, but the draft really represents the baby new year, kicking out father time. And for a lot of these teams, they're trying to make regime changes or they're making changes in the personnel. These are the guys that are going to determine the future of the franchise. And where we start, I mean, there's so many interesting things to dissect, not just about the players and the fits, but about what we can learn about the directions of the franchise and what they think matters when it's time to win.
What do they think matters when it's time to win? And then, let's see, in our very first show, Bloom, in our draft recap show in the Audible in 2006, I blasted baseball in within the first 30 seconds. We were just kind of letting people know who we were back then, in addition to what the teams think. So I think it was standard. I think the show sound is better in terms of the quality and just kind of our chops in general. But in that first show, just to recap for everybody, we recorded it. First off, we had a phone call when you were hired by Footballguys. I was hired in 2005. You were hired in 2006. We had a phone call, and I said, let's make this a show, because I was tasked with making a internet radio show for Footballguys. They weren't even called podcasts then, because I was on the air. I was on the radio. And so then we decided to redo our phone conversation, and we did it on a cassette, if anybody even knows what that is. And you were on speakerphone, and I was just talking in, I think, my bedroom. Anyway, the recorder was too close to the phone, so we had to call back and we had to do it again. And I think, did we do it a third time, or was that
I don't remember. There was two or three, but perseverance, and always with Cecil Lammey at the controls, perseverance pays off. And again, Cecil, I don't want to belabor this, and this isn't about my own delusions of grandeur or self-aggrandizing, but a lot of people come to us and say they started out in the industry because they listened to our show, and it just made them think, I want to do something like that. And I let it be now, as we're here 16 years later, a message to everybody. Whatever that thing is that you're passionate about, that makes you come alive, go for it. Now more than ever, Cecil. Wow, has the world changed in the 16 years, where now more than ever, if you can get your enthusiasm, your positivity out there about any subject. My stepson Noah makes really cool clothes. He designs clothes for his stuffed animals. That's going to be an occupation, man. There are people that make doll furniture. So whatever it is that you like,
get him an Etsy.
Right.
Yeah, people. I'm thinking what kind of gear could I buy my Chewbacca stuffed animal? Right.
Right.
You need some clothes. He's
Accessorize.
Been naked for years. Anyway, so yeah, especially now, and I'm sure you get it, like I get it. I want to do what you do. Go
do it.
There ain't nothing.
You'll
stopping
be better,
you, man.
Yeah,
there was nothing stopping us back then, because we had a stupid cassette recorder, and I took that cassette and I put it and I made it into a CD, and then I took the CD and I put it up in one of our servers, and that was the first episode of the Audible back in 2006. Now we're here pushing. We're 5, over 4,000. Yeah, we're pushing for 5,000 today. So we'll get there. I don't do the numbers thing. I don't know why. I don't like it. But yeah, when we hit a big number, we'll let you know, and you guys will be there with us anyway. And we certainly appreciate you there with us as always. Now, be damned the cold open is what I said on this show, Bloom.
Once a year.
Well, once a year, we're gonna, and the next time you'll see us, it'll be like, why did the Steelers mess up drafting Kenny Pickett now on the Audible? Yes, so we'll get the master of the cold opens back again, but just had to go down memory lane today and just be like, this is how it started. This is why we were here, because we wanted to talk about the NFL draft, and we still want to talk about the NFL draft. And Bloom, we still want to talk to each other. Which is good. The chemistry, I told you years ago, I said, dude, if we didn't get along, we'd still have to do this show, because chemistry is very, very tough to find in this industry,
in this world. But at the same time, keep your friends close. And it is great that we have so many excuses thanks to football to be close. And I think that's what fantasy football is all about.
Ben Jamin says, perfect for a Monday morning show. That's right. It is perfect. Let's do this. Let's go ahead and jump in. And we are doing this in 8 different shows. And those shows will be by division. And of course, we're going to go never eat sour wheat. And we're going to start in the NFC North. So Northeast, Southwest. And sometimes this week, hopefully, Bloom, we'll see. We'll get all 8 of them done, but certainly get you a big chunk today. We'll get you a couple a day, NFC North and AFC North. So NFC North it is. Recapping the draft, and of course, if you're going to start in the NFC North, you're going to go to Chicago, and the Chicago Bears go Kyler Gordon is their pick in the 2nd round, and Gordon was one of those players that you thought might get into the 1st round. Really, when you looked at things overall, you're like, okay, there's going to be a run on corners. He didn't go in the 1st, but he goes there early there in the 2nd. So Kyler Gordon is their pick, and then Jaquan Brisker, Penn State safety. Velus Jones, Bloom, and I'm going to hack some names here, so please forgive me. But from Tennessee, who now, and what was it on the newswire? Like Velus Jones getting praise. Like, oh, okay, everybody's praising everybody right now, so we have to kind of shape that conversation. But in a draft class, when you're thinking, we need to put as much as possible around Justin Fields, did they really do that? Waiting to the 3rd round, Velus Jones has some skill to his game. We'll get to it in a little bit, but your thought process here was you're going 2 defenders when you have Justin Fields. Do they not like Justin Fields? Do they want to see the most out of him? Or are we going to be telling this story next year? Like, oh, well, now's the year to give everything to Fields. Like, well, maybe you should have done that. Braxton Jones, as we go to the 5th round, Southern Utah. I was begging for the Broncos to take him instead of a Division II kick returner. Anyway, Braxton Jones, Southern Utah offensive tackle. Dominique Robinson, Miami of Ohio outside linebacker. Zachary Thomas, San Diego State, loves those Aztecs. Tristan Ebner, running back from Baylor. Doug Kramer, center Illinois. And Jatire Carter, Southern OG, that's a guard. Elijah Hicks, Cal safety. And then the punter, Trenton Gill, NC State. We're actually going to talk about more specialists in this draft, Bloom, than I am comfortable with, but that's okay because teams definitely, they wanted their specialists. Let's talk about Chicago, and let's talk about that theme of, well, did you do enough for Justin Fields? Because it doesn't seem like it.
No, right? This is Ryan and Matt part 2. Ryan and Matt the sequel. Ryan Poles, Matt Eberflus. And like you said, Cecil, no 1st round pick because they have Justin Fields. The previous regime took him. And we'll see. We're going to evaluate this years in the future, like all the drafts. We're going to say things about these draft picks. We're going to say things about these draft strategies, knowing that within months, maybe weeks, maybe years, we will eat some of our words. Draft grades. We're not going to grade the drafts, but we are going to tell you what we think. And with Justin Fields, like you said, Cease, the priority should be let's set up Justin Fields for success. But he belonged to the previous regime. You have a defensive head coach. Sure. We'll get 2 defensive backs and a 25-year-old rookie, your offensive pick there. And this team also traded down 3 times on the 3rd day. So you could see some clarity there as, they just really didn't see any players that they were willing to take. So they were turning that into more picks later on. So you look at this draft and, okay, Kyler Gordon, Washington cornerback. We talk about bloodlines in terms of programs and positions. Washington cornerback, pretty good bloodline there. All the athleticism you want in a corner, the way he plays the ball, needs to develop more awareness, being able to diagnose, react, understand what he's looking at. If that comes into place, he may be as good as Daryl Stingley. He may be as good as Sauce Gardner. If not, this could be a wasted pick. Juwan Brisker is going to be a good all-around safety, and again, the toughness, the edge. Now Jones, and see, this has been going around. He was on the 2016 USC team with Juju Smith-Schuster, Sam Darnold, and Ronald Jones. So this is a guy that was on a college team with those players. Just to give you that idea, there's a lot of older rookies this year because of the extra year for Koof. Jones, you hope he's a Cordero Patterson type. I don't know. That's not really going to help Justin Fields that much. We'll see. We'll see what Luke Getsy has up his sleeve. And then a ton of players on the third day. They've got Braxton Jones, like you mentioned, he's got starter upside. You got Robinson, a situational rusher. Kramer is a good lunch pail offensive lineman, another offensive lineman. So at least they're looking at the offensive line to help out. Fields was on the third day. Ebner absolutely can help on special teams. He could be a slot receiver. So there are some players there that can help this draft class look better. They got a punter, they got a defensive back from Cal, but this is not that first class you were looking for if you wanted to see a commitment. If they make the defense strong, they could redeem them. But Cecil, you have to wonder. You bring up the question. People like to make definitive statements, but you really bring up the question looking at this class. Does this regime believe in Justin Fields?
Yeah. Do they want him? Because if you did, you would want to put as much around him as possible, especially as rough as Justin Fields' game is.
Yeah.
And this was the draft to do that. You had multiple backs, and we'll get to a back that they added as an undrafted player. But you had multiple wide receivers. You had tight end options that were interesting, and you just didn't do anything, really. So interesting moves by the Bears. And I have a feeling either they're going to be in some sort of who's the next veteran that's going to get traded, Bloom, right? For multiple assets. They're going to be in that market, or they're going to be in this conversation of like, now we have to do it all for Justin Fields. You're a year late, man.
Yeah,
we got to see what we've got in him. I think that would be a mistake as well. Now, as long as I remember, we also go over the undrafted free agents as well, and we just pick out one, sometimes maybe a couple.
Yeah.
But when I tell you, Bloom, if I say, "Hey, I got a Big Ten running back for you,"
right.
He is 5'11", 221. He runs a 4.4 40. And if I said the numbers to you, 1,764 yards, 5.5 a carry, and 17 touchdowns, you'd go, wow, that sounds pretty good. Mm-hmm. Then I'd say it was in his career, and his name's Master Teague.
Right.
So, you have some interest there with Master Teague, to be sure, but, definitely didn't get the production that you thought he would there at Ohio State. But if I look over their undrafted free agents, he's kind of the guy that I go, there's some interest there. How about you?
Yeah, there's interest there because he doesn't have an undrafted physical profile. Like you said, he's got NFL size, power, athleticism at running back when undrafted, even coming out of Ohio State. So he's one to watch. And he's one to watch because David Montgomery's in his walk year. So what is this regime going to do about the running back position? Remember that for Khalil Herbert, by the way.
Love Khalil Herbert. And by the way, walk year for running back should mean you let him walk.
Bye-bye. Yeah, bye-bye. Chase Allen. I mentioned Chase Allen just because I think he was hit by a car when he was a freshman. And now he's going to be in NFL rookie minicamp. Jack Sanborn, classic downhill linebacker. There's some testing numbers that show there's potential for him to be more linebacker out of Wisconsin. So the Bears undrafted free agents seems almost as interesting to talk about as their drafted players.
Yes, almost. That's for sure. We move on in this draft recap show, and we're going to talk about the Detroit Lions up next. Did they get the best player in the draft? Yeah, well, Aiden Hutchinson for years and years and years. It seemed like he was going to be the top pick. Maybe not that long, but still, you get it. Everyone thought, it's going to be Hutchinson 1. And then it wasn't. And here you go, Michigan to Michigan, right? And that was great news with his length, with his burst. Some people throw around Bosa as a comparison. I'm not sure if you like that or agree with that, Bloom. But let's shake our fist at the heavens for what they did to get Jameson Williams. This was a great move. because they hosed the Vikings. I had a message. I'll tell you off air who it was. I had a message from a buddy of ours that covers the league quite well and is very well sourced. That might give it away. But anyway, so he messaged me and goes, the Vikings really missed George Payton.
Yeah.
Because they got fleeced. Detroit went from 32-12 to get Jameson Williams. And now the reports are saying from the knee that he tore up national championship that he'll be good to go maybe even for the start of the regular season, which is, fascinating to get that sort of talent. I thought he's the best receiver in this class. We can obviously debate that. And, did the Falcons mess up by taking Drake London, their version of Mike Evans, all these sorts of things. So there was a great wide receiver debate, like who's on first? It was a baseball thing, Bloom. There's my baseball reference. Well, who's on first? Jameson Williams was number one in the hearts of the Lions. And if he's healthy, they got a game breaker, playmaker, to be sure. Josh Pascal in the second round, Kentucky defensive end, get after the quarterback. Kirby Joseph, third rounder, Illinois safety. James Mitchell, tight end from Va-Tech. Speaking of ACLs, I wrote about him yesterday on our Footballguys newswire. So go check out what I wrote about James Mitchell. Malcolm Rodriguez, Oklahoma State ILB. James Houston, Jackson State OLB. And then they wrap it up in the seventh round with Chase Lucas, Arizona State cornerback. So the Lions certainly made a statement. And I think all of us, Bloom, can kind of be mini Lions fans.
Yeah.
Just a little bit.
I think so. You really love Brad Holmes' aggressiveness here. Aiden Hutchinson was a dream pick because Cecil did it again. It's the second time that Brad Holmes, the Lions, have gotten in trouble for getting their pick in too fast. Don't get that pick in so fast. We've got to milk the first round for TV coverage.
Right.
Yeah, we joke about run up to the podium. Really, they ran up to the podium for Hutchinson. And only if Trent Baalke was picking number one would they have gotten Hutchinson. You said Bosa brother, a discount Bosa brother. Not quite as twitchy, explosive, but as far as the variety of roles and ways you use this guy, Hutchinson's going to be that guy, like you said, Michigan, all the way up from birth. You love that culture. You're going to see that. Jameson Williams, so intense. Was he happy to get drafted? I couldn't tell. But that's that Lions mentality. And this trade, I don't care how you slice it. When you only give up a bump from 46 to 34 and the number 66 pick to move up from 32 to 12, and 32 to 12 in any draft, I don't care if you're moving up for a quarterback. In any draft, you're making a big leap in caliber of player. So yeah, we'll talk about Minnesota later in this episode, but that's outstanding. They had that extra first-round pick, remember, as part of the Goff-Stafford trade, one of the extra first-round picks they got there. Turn that into Jameson Williams. And yes, he's the best wide receiver prospect in this draft, because if he's going that high coming off of an ACL tear, if he was healthy, he would have been the first wide receiver off the board, and he gives the team that deep speed that makes everything go in the offense. Josh Pascal, it's another culture guy. Lives for football, and maybe not a flashy edge rusher. That's why he's a second-round pick, a guy that can absolutely slip inside. See, so I think that we're going to see, that third edge rusher is kind of a starter, the same way nickel corner became a starter. I think that player that can bump inside your interior pass rush specialists for passing downs also, but Pascal can also set the edge against the run. Just a great fit. Joseph is a good cover safety. Mitchell's really interesting. Mitchell had a lot of momentum coming into this year, hurt his knee. If he hadn't, this is another guy, Cecil, we're going to say this about. If he hadn't gotten hurt this year, would he have been a third-round pick maybe instead of a fifth-round pick? The Lions getting some discounts there. Rodriguez is interesting just because this is a team that doesn't have a true stalwart inside linebacker. He is a guy who can get downhill and produce. Remember that in your IDP leagues. Houston's also interesting, too, because I think he had 16 and a half sacks and 7 forced fumbles at Jackson State last year. Started out at Florida. So he just doesn't have an ideal frame. When I say 6'1", 241, you don't think edge, right?
Right.
So that's why he falls. But I think this fits really well. They got a finesse corner who has the footwork and athleticism, Lucas, in the last round. But see, you look at these drafts the Lions are putting together. They have a plan. They have things they emphasize. And they're aggressive going after their guys. They believe in their plan. I believe in them.
I believe in their undrafted free agents. I don't know. Some transitions are better than others, Bloom. And let's talk about the Lions because... Well, honestly, are the Lions undrafted free agents better than the Bears draft class?
Right.
Now I'll bring up Greg Bell, even though he's probably the lowest on my list, Bloom, in terms of Lions undrafted free agents, but he's San Diego State. So of course, I'm going to bring up a San Diego State player. I'm going to bring up a San Diego State running back if I have the opportunity. And well, I do that with Bell. Now, don't look at his fumbles. Don't look at his time at Nebraska when he was unhappy with his playing time. And definitely don't look at his speed or third down ability. Why do I like Greg Bell? Oh, yeah, because San Diego State. No, actually, I like that he's an intent as a runner. He doesn't waste a lot of motion, which can really benefit you. Now, he needs to clean up his third down ability, obviously, to get on the field. He's not a pile pusher. Was he 201, something like that, 205, whatever the number is. So you're not going to rely on him as a between the tackles guy in terms of short yardage. And we'll see if he can even make the practice squad. But I do like the intent. I like the determination as a runner. Again, 6 fumbles last year. That's not good. Don't like that. But we'll see. We'll put a pin in Greg Bell. But again, Bloom, there's a lot of Lions UDFAs that are pretty interesting to talk about.
Yeah, and I should mention, by the way, as a postscript to the Lions draft, we should always talk about, in some cases, always in some cases, what they didn't do. They didn't take a quarterback. They didn't take a quarterback even as the quarterbacks are falling down the board. They did sign a lot of wide receivers. Khalil Pimpleton out of Central Michigan. This was the year where there were a lot of Steelers got one, Giants got one. These diminutive, fast, quick receivers. Matt Waldman, RSP favorite there. Josh Johnson out of Tulsa. He's good at getting uncovered separation. Corey Sutton out of App State, a productive receiver. Also got to mention Derek Deese Jr. Remember Derek Deese? Oh, yeah. Super Bowl winner, 2-time All-Pro, left tackle for those 49ers teams in the 90s. He's a pass-catching H-back in the same way that Mitchell, the 5th-round pick, is. So if Mitchell's knee is an issue, that knee that cost him most of last season, remember the name Derek Deese? You already know the name Derek Deese. Obinna Eze gave him $170,000 guaranteed. You're seeing a lot more of this, Cease. A lot more. I can remember like 10 years ago, I think it was Ronald Leary, former Bronco, former Cowboy. I think Jerry Jones gave him like $200,000, $300,000. And that was a very eyebrow-raising move at the time. Now you're seeing teams really understand that, hey, giving one of your undrafted free agents a bigger signing bonus than you give your 6th-round pick or 5th-round pick, you go out and get him. As he was that guy for them who can at least develop into a swing tackle, maybe more. So they made that priority there. They are set at tackle, but hey, that means it's time to develop someone behind those guys.
Yes, that means it's time to move on to the Green Bay Packers and what they did. And what they did is piss Aaron Rodgers off. Sorry, Joe, I guess. I don't know. I don't know what I can say. Well, I know what I can't say on here, but there's certain cuss words you're like, is that? I don't know. Somebody tell me. Joe should start fining us, right?
We need a jar.
Yes, we need like a cuss jar, a virtual cuss jar. You throw in money, we donate it to charity, and then we could just cuss.
Yeah.
Right? Wouldn't that be great?
Aaron Rodgers is going to fill it up before we even get started.
They go, could not skill position. Has it been since Javon Walker? Top of my head, Bloom. Is that right? Javon Walker was the last wide receiver that they took in the 1st round. Okay, so Quay Walker's there. All right. And he goes in there, and they had the 2 first-rounders. So I was thinking, well, one, I know they liked Trey McBride. So I was like, maybe they'll get a pass rusher and they'll get Trey McBride. Well, they like Georgia Bulldogs because they went Quay Walker, and then they went Devontae Wyatt, from Georgia there as well at 28. So fantastic players, certainly. And if you want a defensive player, get you a Georgia Bulldog, except for Nakobe Dean, who doesn't like surgery, I guess. I don't know. Shouldn't have felt like that. Really, there's a tipping point for everything. Like Nakobe Dean goes a certain level, and you're just like, just take him.
Yeah.
Oh, his pec. He'll go and make a tackle and tear his pec. I don't care. There's a certain level where Nakobe Dean's still on the board. That's a top 10 talent, top 20 if you're pessimistic. But anyway, I'm getting off track talking about Nakobe Dean. Let's get back to talking about the Packers and Christian Watson from North Dakota State. Size, speed, combination, ball tracking ability, body control. Saw him down at the Senior Bowl, Bloom. There's your bong rip for Jason, or pot storm degenerate is back. Yes, it's only a water pipe. These are for tobacco use only. But there you go, Jason, up there in Greeley, getting all baked, drinking your Mountain Dew. Christian Watson, North Dakota State, was at the Senior Bowl, proved that he could make that jump from ND State to the NFL, playing against the top seniors in the country. Let's go to the third round. Sean Ryan, UCLA guard. Romeo Daubs, Nevada, again, Senior Bowl. Excuse me. And a really good wide receiver in terms of what he does with his concentration, how he presents himself to his quarterback. Could be a quarterback's favorite target. Carson Strong. Bloom, now I'm going to get off track talking about Carson Strong. What is it about Nakobe Dean and Carson Strong? Anyway, Dabbs, we'll talk about him. Nevada, Zach Tom, Wake Forest, guard. Don't trust a guy with two first names. Kingsley and Bare, South Carolina, outside linebacker. Tariq Carpenter, who's really kind of a safety. They'll list him at ILB, but he's more of a safety. Great tackler, in the box guy. Jonathan Ford, Miami defensive tackle. Rasheed Walker, speaking of falling.
Yeah.
There was a tipping point with Rasheed Walker. What was it? His meniscus, right? Because he had a meniscus injury. But you're taking a third round talent and getting him in the 7th round. Like, seriously, what the hell were other teams doing when Rasheed Walker is falling to the 7th round? That's just dumb. That's just dumb. Oh, his knee. Okay, yeah, whatever. That's dumb. And then Samori Toure, Nebraska wide receiver. So they did get Aaron Rodgers and wide receivers. They might have done it out of order. And you know how Rodgers is about his orders.
Yeah. I mean, that's your lead story. No wide receiver in the first round. And as we just talked about the Lions, it was there for them to move up for Jameson Williams, at least. And I would imagine there were some teams picking in the top 10 that would have been willing to trade down. But they stood pat. And look, the Packers have, front seven. Wow. You add in Quay Walker, who was the first Georgia linebacker off the board. He can edge rush. He can drop into coverage. He can play against the run. He's going to be an outstanding outside linebacker in this defense. Again, that third edge rusher, too. You keep these guys fresh, what they have going on there. Devontae Wyatt, a gap shooter, projects, I guess, as a defensive end in this scheme. But certainly these guys are going to give this team lots of quality reps. But they already had a quality front seven. What were they missing? Right. And remember, looming over this is the Devontae Adams trade. So they basically get Quay Walker and part of the trade for Christian Watson for Devontae Adams. Okay. You mentioned these receivers. So this is going to be what we're going to watch because Christian Watson is raw. And Romeo Daubs, Samori Toure. This could be a situation, Cease, where like Elijah Mitchell last year. And I know we didn't get the reveal until week 1. Let's just watch this horse race. It was a good race, by the way, the Kentucky Derby. 81-1. Did you see that, Cease? An 81-1 shot.
I wonder how much money Michael Jordan had on that.
Yeah, right. No chance. Rich Strike looked like he had no chance. Anyway, we'll see about Watson versus Daubs versus Toure. Toure's got some speed. He can play out of the slot. Daubs can make some plays downfield. And Watson, of course, has the ceiling. But who's going to get playing time out of the gate, if any of them? Sean Ryan can play tackle and guard. A lot of these guys, right? Tom played left tackle. He's going to play center. Getting some good depth here. It's good to have good versatile depth on the offensive line. Enigbare is a power player, more of a run stuffer, but we're in the third day. Like you mentioned with Carpenter, I think they're starting him out at safety, but he's like a linebacker size safety. Ford can play some nose tackle. They don't need that position, but certainly it never hurts to have redundant depth. You mentioned Walker. He's a very polished run blocker, right? This is why the Packers we're happy to have him. Needs to develop his pass blocking, but there's some quality players here. Does it get them closer to this place they're stuck in the playoffs? I don't think so. They're good picks, but it shows against a lack of grasp. Now, they did bring in Rich Bisaccia. I know that Ford, the nose tackle they got, he blocked a kick. Okay, so there's some addressing of the reason you got booted out of the playoffs by the 49ers. But I still wonder if we're going to see a different team than we've seen the last few years that disappoints when it matters the most.
Your rare basketball reference on this show, Bloom. They're like the Nuggets. They're really good at drafting, and they'll never win a championship. Like, listen to all the praise that we just heaped on Green Bay. Like, you're very good at drafting, but you're not doing anything to put yourself over the top. And, well, that's what you get with Aaron Rodgers with one ring. It's disgusting.
Rashard Mendenhall. Rashard Mendenhall. He gets an assist. His name should be somewhere etched on there.
Oh, boy. Oh, Rashard. I don't think we liked that pick, did we? There's been some Steelers picks that we don't like. And I guess what do we do with the Steelers pick this year? Anyway, we'll get to that show eventually, Bloom. Actually, it'll be the next show whenever we want to do that. But
by eventually, I mean in about 10 minutes.
Eventually, it means as soon as I write the description on YouTube. So anyway, Green Bay, there you go. Let's get to the undrafted free agents for those Green Bay Packers. How about that? And well, there's a couple of running backs that we could talk about. I'm going to talk about one, Tyler Goodson from Iowa. 5'9", $197, 4.4 speed, better receiver out of the backfield than people think. Very patient. He's a zone runner. Okay. So what you're getting with a zone runner is patience and burst. Patience and burst is the kind of the hallmarks of his game. So when you pick up, and I honestly thought, and Bloom, there's a tipping point, speaking of my buzzwords today. Yeah. When you're like a Goodson, I just want to be undrafted. I want to pick where I can go, pick who we can learn behind. You can learn behind Aaron Jones. Like, my God. That's perfect for a guy like Goodson, considering his skill set, the rushing system that he came from in college at Iowa, and just what he could be in the NFL level. So, rather than be the late round pick your destination. Goodson picks the Packers. I think it's a pretty good pick.
It is a good pick. Dane Boogler wrote that Torrey was also getting a ton of phone calls from teams looking to pick him up as an undrafted free agent. The Packers just selected him. Goodson's the guy to focus on here. And so we're going to talk about this more than once as we go through these draft classes. Running backs who have an opportunity to make the team because the player ahead of them is hurt. Kylan Hill in this case, who is a good running back, better than a typical 7th-round running back for sure, but he's coming in off the ACL tear, so Goodson is going to have a chance to get some meaningful reps, and he's a good receiver. He's a good athlete. Our mutual friend Chad Ryder ranked him as the number 1 undrafted running back, and undrafted running backs, can produce some gold for us. Maybe not right away. You're striving to be
landing
a third-string
spot means right away isn't going to happen, but this is a definite pin in it. This is keep an eye on this kid.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where did Chad Ryder write that? Chad Ryder's like my Michael Bolton, right? I enjoy I celebrate his entire catalog.
Yes. Yeah. NFL.com for all your Chad Ryder hits.
Okay. Chad Ryder hits and the Audible hits, or should I say misses, when we talk about Minnesota. All right, Lewis Cine. Okay, we're going to take him. They're sitting at 32. Lewis Cine's the way you want to go. All right, you need some safety help. You need a bulldog. Everyone needs a bulldog. Andrew Booth. Honestly, Bloom, you could have flip-flopped these picks because I felt Booth would go in the first round. And he didn't. Someone's going to get a tremendous value. In fact, when the Bills take Elam, and I think they moved up for Elam, yes. If I'm misremembering,
just 2 spots, yes.
Yeah, so they move up a little bit. I was honestly like, is this for Booth? Could this be for Booth? And it wasn't. They still got a hell of a corner there in Elam. We'll get to that later. But Andrew Booth in the second round, okay, pretty good there. Ed Ingram, guard from LSU, second-round pick as well. Brian Asamoah, linebacker, inside linebacker from OU. Boomer Sooner, Caleb Evans, Missouri corner, next in the 4th round. 5th round, Isezi Otomio, Minnesota defensive end. I apologize for hacking everybody's name. Ty Chandler, running back from North Carolina. Now, very interesting. I kind of thought the Broncos would look at Ty Chandler. They did have interest in Ty Chandler. So I'm at the Shrine Bowl. There you go, Jason. And he is Javonte Williams' former teammate, but he's also like 200 pounds, very good contact balance. I don't know what it is about those Tar Heel running backs, Bloom, but he's got exceptional contact balance. Now, he's not a pile pusher, to be sure, but he does have good straight line speed, and you can't really just give him a shoulder. Most 200-pound backs, you give him a shoulder, they're going to go down. You give this guy a shoulder, and Ty Chandler, he can keep his feet. He's got very light feet, good foot frequency, Bloom is what we call it, and can keep the play going. So, okay, I like that. All right, Minnesota. I'm feeling a little bit better. Vidarian Lowe, Illinois offensive tackle, Jalen Naylor, Michigan State wide receiver, and Nick Muse, South Carolina tight end to round things out on day 3. So, okay, they do the deal with Detroit. They get hosed. Do they bounce back good enough, Bloom? What did you think of what Minnesota did in the draft?
This is one we're going to watch, right? Because they kept their scouting staff basically intact. They hire a new coach. They hire a new GM, Kwesi Adofo-Mensah, who, again, until last year was in the analytics side for the 49ers for many years. Goes over to Cleveland. Andrew Berry teaches him the ropes on operations. Now he's ready to be a GM. First draft jitters. here, Cease, maybe.
Something.
We've talked about that trade. Again, there's just no way you can cut it so that 12 and 46 for 32, 34, and 36 is a good deal. On draft night, when it sounded like it was 32 and 34 for 12, that sounded about right. You toss in a bump from 66 to 46.
Right.
That doesn't sound right. And then, so you're sitting there with 32 and 34. You trade down 34 to 53 and 59. And both these trades in the division. So Vikings fans will have to do their best when they're watching Christian Watson, when they're watching Jameson Williams. If these guys are lighting up the Vikings, it doesn't matter what the players the Vikings did. It doesn't matter. You helped a division rival. So they trade down from 34 to 53 and 59. At 59, they take Ingram, a guard, not an inspiring pick. Maybe would have been there a round or 2 or 3 later. But then that's not all. So you trade down from 34 to 53, 59, but then they trade back up from 53 to 42. And they give up 77, 192. They get 122 back, right? Then we get to the 4th round. They have pick 122. They trade up. They give up 2023 4th and 156 to trade up for Evans. They only would have had to wait 4 more picks to see if Evans was going to be there. Maybe he wasn't going to be there. And then they trade down 12 and 122 and 250 for 165, 169, and 227. They traded down a couple of times. So it's like you trade up 4 picks and you then trade down 2 times. Maybe there should have been more patience. But let's get to the picks, because even though I said Vikings fans won't care, they care about Watson and Williams. They should care about these guys. He's a sheriff. He's just that classic. Throwback, right? You come over the middle of the field, you're going to remember,
right?
I'm there. Coverage, everything you need. A good pick. Booth, you can see they're going to have an emphasis in this defense on a zone-type corners. Booth could be an outstanding zone-type corner. Evans, who they traded up, gave that 2023 4th as part of the package to get him, the size, speed, a zone corner. Ingram is probably better as a pass blocker than a run blocker. Asamoah is your classic seek and destroy. We had Kenneth Murray out of Oklahoma a few years back, right? Seek and destroy. Just let him run. Let him be uncovered and run after the ball. He's going to have some opportunity in your IDP leagues. Otomehu is the kind of guy who's going to, again, it's in this new defensive scheme. You need those guys who are going to do the dirty work, tie up blockers so that other guys like Asamoah can make plays. Ty Chandler has got some kick return chops, got some receiving skills. This team with Madison coming up to free agency, Dalvin Cook. There's a Freudian slip for you.
Yeah.
We got Nwangwu last year in the 4th round. Chandler. There could be some opportunity upcoming. Lowe, and they get into the late of the draft. I actually like these guys. Lowe is a project, but one with great potential. That's what you should be using those late 3rd day picks on, right? Naylor, another one. Speedy Naylor. I mean, he's got the speed. He just has to stay healthy. If he can stay healthy, he'll probably make this team not an impressive depth chart and maybe contribute to this team right away with his speed. Muse, even a decent 2-way tight end with athleticism for his game to grow into. So as we get deeper into the draft, I like the picks. I like the philosophy more. I just think there was some flailing here. Flailings.
What's the flailings mean?
There's just moving back and forth in a way that showed me, again, that first draft jitter. This was a team, I think, based on the moves they made this offseason. There was a directive from the top saying, we're going to stay competitive. We're going to still keep pushing. And this felt like more of a rebuilding draft than one to put a team in a Super Bowl window, like, say, the Saints draft.
There is one UDFA for the Vikings that's pretty damn interesting. And if I told you could get a Michigan pass rusher, you'd be interested, right? Well, Michigan pass rusher that went to Wake Forest for 1 year. But when he went to Wake Forest, he had 9 sacks. And that is Louis Villain. And not everything's put together yet. And we see that with players like Villain, is that the skill is there in terms of physical ability, 6'3.5", 255. Decent wingspan, length, burst, all those sorts of things. But putting the pass rush moves together, being able to stack moves on top of each other, this is what Villain will need to learn. There's not many UDFAs, at least on the list we're looking at, Bloom, for the Vikings. And there's certainly not many to be excited about. Villain, though, is one of those players.
And they are excited about him too. They gave him $207,000 guaranteed, I think, on his first contract. And like you said, he's not the most refined edge rusher at this moment, but there's a lot there to work with. And again, as you're changing over the defense, this is a player who can project as that rush outside linebacker.
That's right. It is the Audible here, going through our draft recap shows. And that is a wrap for today's program, at least for the NFC North. Bloom, give me the thumbs up or thumbs down if you got time to do AFC North.
Oh, yes. I got my Hines Ward jersey on.
Okay.
Oh, man. I would say I have my game face on, but my game face looks like a sad face.
It's like in Half Baked when like, Kenny, show us your mean face.
Yeah.
It's like, how long can you last? 5, 6:30? All right, that is a wrap. Oh, I got this great t-shirt. I'll wear it on one of the shows, even though I'm going to wait until I go see Limp Bizkit. Yes, that's right. At the end of May here in Colorado. So I got a nice half-baked shirt that I'll wear. I'll debut it here on the Audible, Bloom, and you can give me the thumbs up or thumbs down. But anyway, so that is a wrap for today's program, and we'll be right back in just a little bit with some AFC North action. We're doing our draft recap shows this week, maybe a little into next week. Again, we're going to try to get everything done this week. A couple shows a day, Sigmund and I going through these draft classes, and we'll be maybe a little less chatty on the next show, but it's our first show back. This is what happens. Our 8th show, even though AFC West is our final show, Bloom, this happens, especially in the bad divisions, will be like 40 minutes, 39 minutes, 30 minutes, 25 minutes, 12 minutes.
Right.
Like sometimes there's more to say, and we are here to say it for you. So make sure to do all those YouTube things, like, comment, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so that you never miss a vid. Watch the video all the way to the end. That helps the algorithm. That puts us in front of more people. We certainly appreciate you guys for doing that. So we'll be back in just a matter of minutes with our AFC North draft to recap. He's Sigmund. I'm Cecil. We're the Audible. Stay tuned. And as always, I command you to stay frosty.